Ethan Carter stood at the edge of the school parking lot, smoothing the wrinkles from his jacket as if they were doubts he could press away. The building hadn't changed much, brick walls dulled by time, glass doors reflecting a version of himself he barely recognized anymore. 8 years had passed since he last walked these halls, yet the weight in his chest felt familiar. Beside him, Liam Carter tightened his grip on Ethan's hand, small fingers warm and trusting. "You said there would be balloons," Liam said, craning his neck toward the entrance. "There will be," Ethan replied, offering a smile he hoped looked steady. "Give a minute." Liam nodded, satisfied, and Ethan felt the familiar tug of responsibility settle him. Being a single father had taught him to anchor himself to simple promises. He had learned how to show up, how to stay quiet when noise would only cause harm, how to choose patience when pride demanded a louder voice. Those lessons had not come easily. Inside, the reunion buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses. Faces from another life drifted past, some softened by time, others sharpened by ambition. Ethan signed his name at the desk with careful handwriting, noticing how the volunteer glanced at his clothes and then at Liam, curiosity flickering before she masked it with a polite smile. He thanked her anyway. Gratitude had become second nature. As they moved into the hall, memory pressed in from all sides. He remembered being 22 and certain love was a shared direction, not a negotiation. He remembered Vanessa Carter laughing too loudly at his jokes, then later at someone else's. He remembered the first silence between them, thin as a crack in ice, easy to ignore until it spread. Vanessa had loved appearances. She loved how rooms responded to her, how attention gathered and stayed. Ethan had loved work. He had believed stability was affection in action, that long hours were proof of devotion. When Liam was born, Ethan felt the world sharpen into focus. Vanessa felt it narrow. The distance between them grew quietly. No slam doors, no dramatic scenes. Just evenings where Vanessa's phone glowed brighter than their conversation. Weekends where she left early and returned late, excuses wrapped in perfume and urgency. Ethan asked questions gently. Vanessa answered vaguely. He told himself trust meant patience. The truth arrived without spectacle. An email left open. A name he didn't know. Ryan Holloway. The words were careful, affectionate without being explicit, promises shaped like plans. Ethan didn't shout. He didn't beg. He folded the laptop closed and went to check on Liam, who slept with his fist tucked beneath his chin. That night, Ethan chose the child and let the marriage dissolve around that choice. Vanessa framed her leaving as clarity. She said she needed more, said Ethan had grown small, said love shouldn't feel like sacrifice. She didn't mention Ryan by name until later, and when she did, she spoke of him as inevitability. Ethan listened. He signed papers. He kept Liam. Back in the present, music swelled as the crowd thickened. Ethan found a quiet table near the wall and knelt to straighten Liam's collar. "Stay close," he said. "I will," Liam answered, eyes bright, already cataloging the decorations. Ethan scanned the room despite himself. He told himself it didn't matter whether Vanessa was here. He told himself the past had done its worst and moved on. Then he saw her. Vanessa stood near the center, hair perfectly arranged, laughter effortless. She wore confidence like armor, and at her side stood Ryan Holloway, taller than Ethan remembered him from photographs, a hand resting possessively at Vanessa's back. Ryan's smile was practiced, his posture announcing a life of ease. Ethan felt the old ache stir, not jealousy, not anger, but the hollow recognition of a story that had been rewritten without him. He turned his attention back to Liam, who had spotted the balloons at last and tugged excitedly. Ethan followed, grateful for the distraction. They hadn't gone far when Vanessa's gaze caught on Ethan. For a fraction of a second, her smile faltered. Then it returned, brighter, sharpened. She whispered something to Ryan, who followed her eyes and nodded, amused. Ethan pretended not to notice. He focused on pouring juice for Liam, on asking about school, on the rhythm of being a father in a room that felt like judgment disguised as nostalgia. He told himself he could leave early. He told himself he owed no one explanations. Across the room, Vanessa watched him with a tilt of her head that suggested appraisal rather than memory. She had expected Ethan to look smaller. She had expected defeat to show. Instead, she saw calm. It unsettled her. Ethan felt it too, the sense of being observed weighed. He breathed through it. He reminded himself why he had come. Liam deserved to see his father stand without apology. The music shifted. A hush rippled near the entrance as new arrivals drew attention. Ethan didn't look yet. He adjusted Liam's sleeve and smiled down at him. Then the doors opened wider, and something in the room changed. An intake of breath, a collective pause. Ethan lifted his eyes, curiosity pricking through his resolve, unaware that the night was about to demand more of him than quiet endurance, and offer more than he had ever expected. Vanessa crossed the room with practiced ease, heels tapping lightly against the floor, Ryan Holloway moving beside her as if he owned the space she walked through. Conversations thinned in their wake. People noticed confidence when it entered a room, especially the kind that asked to be admired. "Ethan," Vanessa said, stopping a careful distance away, her smile polished and cool. Her eyes flicked briefly to Liam, then back to Ethan. "I didn't know you'd be here." Ethan inclined his head. "It's a reunion," he replied evenly. Seemed appropriate. Ryan chuckled softly, the sound carrying. "Right, for everyone," he added, glancing around as if inviting agreement. His gaze returned to Ethan's jacket, to the scuffed shoes Ethan hadn't had time to replace. "And this must be my son," Ethan said, resting a hand on Liam's shoulder. "Liam." Liam looked up, uncertain, sensing the shift in air. Vanessa smiled down at him, but it didn't reach her eyes. "He's grown," she said, as if surprised the child existed beyond memory. Ryan leaned closer to Vanessa. "You didn't tell me Ethan was bringing company," he said, loud enough to be heard. "Must be hard managing all this alone." Ethan met his gaze. "We manage," he said simply. Vanessa's smile sharpened. "Still doing that modest thing, Ethan?" she asked. "Downplaying everything. It suits you." She glanced at Ryan. Ethan always believed quiet effort was enough. Ryan laughed again. "And was it?" he asked, tilting his head. "I mean, look around. Everyone's moved on. Careers, investments, travel. It's easy to get left behind." A few nearby guests pretended not to listen while listening anyway. Ethan felt the familiar pressure to defend himself, rise and pass. He focused on Liam's breathing, on the steadiness of the moment. "I like my job," Ethan said. "It keeps us stable." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "Stable," she echoed. "That's one word for it." She lowered her voice just enough to sound intimate. "Do you still rent that small place near the freeway?" Ethan didn't answer. He didn't need to. The implication did its work without him. Ryan placed a hand on Vanessa's back. "We just closed on a house by the lake," he said conversationally. 5 bedrooms. Views you wouldn't believe. He glanced at Liam. "Kids need space, you know. Opportunity." Liam's fingers tightened in Ethan's jacket. Ethan felt it and knelt slightly, bringing himself level with his son. "Why don't you get another juice?" he suggested gently. "I'll be right here." Liam hesitated, eyes darting between faces, then nodded and walked toward the table. The moment he was gone, Vanessa exhaled, a sound almost like relief. "You didn't have to bring him," she said. "This isn't really a place for children." Ethan straightened. "He's family," he replied. "So am I." Vanessa's gaze hardened. "You always did misunderstand things," she said. "This is about success, about showing who we've become." She gestured subtly at Ethan. "And some people never quite get there." Ryan smiled, enjoying the performance. "No offense," he said, though offense was the point. "It's just reality." Ethan looked around. He saw former classmates watching with interest, curiosity edged with judgment. He felt exposed, not because of his circumstances, but because of how easily they were being used against him. "I'm happy," Ethan said quietly. "That's enough for me." Vanessa studied him, searching for something: regret, bitterness, apology. Finding none, she scoffed. "Happy," she repeated. "That's what people say when they give up." Ryan checked his watch. "We should circulate," he said. "No point lingering." He leaned closer to Ethan. "Good seeing you," he added, his tone dismissive. "Keep doing whatever it is you do." They walked away, Vanessa's laughter resuming as if on cue. The space they left behind felt colder. Ethan released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Liam returned, juice in hand. "Why was that lady mean?" he asked softly. Ethan crouched again, choosing his words with care. "Sometimes people forget what matters," he said. "That's not your problem." Liam nodded, accepting the answer the way children do, with trust that felt undeserved. Ethan stood, a familiar ache settling in his chest. Not for himself, but for the world his son was learning to navigate. The music swelled again. The reunion pressed on. Ethan considered leaving, the thought a relief. He gathered their things, ready to slip out unnoticed, when a murmur rippled near the entrance. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Ethan followed the movement instinctively, his eyes lifting toward the doors as they opened once more, unaware that the night's balance was about to shift, and that the quiet strength he had carried would soon be seen in a very different light. The doors opened fully, and the room shifted its attention as if pulled by an unseen current. A woman stepped inside with unhurried confidence, her presence quiet yet unmistakable. Clara Whitmore did not scan the room for approval. She moved as though it were already hers. Conversations faltered. Even the music seemed to soften around her. Ethan recognized her instantly and felt a flicker of surprise he quickly mastered. Clara had mentioned a late meeting, nothing more. He hadn't expected her here, certainly not at this moment. She wore a simple, tailored dress, no excess, no display. And yet people straightened as she passed, sensing authority without understanding its source. That Clara's eyes found Ethan with ease. Her expression warmed, the reserve lifting into genuine familiarity. She crossed the room, ignoring the curious looks, and stopped before him with a smile that reached her eyes. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm and clear. "There you are." A ripple of interest followed her words. Ethan inclined his head. "Clara," he replied, "I didn't know you'd be coming." "I decided last minute," she said. Her gaze dipped to Liam, who stood close to Ethan's side, wide-eyed. "And you must be Liam." Liam nodded, unsure. Clara crouched to his level without hesitation. "Your father talks about you all the time," she said gently. "You're taller than I imagined." Liam glanced up at Ethan, then back at Clara. "He does?" he asked. "He does," Clara replied. "He's very proud of you." Something in Ethan's chest eased, the tension loosening its grip. He hadn't realized how tightly he'd been holding it. Across the room, Vanessa had gone still. She watched the exchange with narrowed eyes, confusion shading into calculation. Ryan followed her gaze, frowning as he took in Clara's composure, her effortless command of attention. "Do you know her?" Ryan murmured. Vanessa didn't answer immediately. She watched as Clara stood, placing a light hand on Ethan's arm. Not possessive, simply familiar. The gesture unsettled her more than any display of wealth could have. Clara turned slightly, acknowledging the curious stares. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said lightly. "I wanted to congratulate you, Ethan. The Henderson project closed this morning." Ethan's eyebrows lifted a fraction. "It did?" he asked. "It did," Clara confirmed. "Largely because of your groundwork." She glanced around. "I'd have announced it tomorrow. But since I've found you," she smiled again, "consider this my thanks." Whispers stirred. Names were exchanged in low tones as recognition began to dawn. Someone near the back murmured Clara Whitmore's name with reverence. Another guest's eyes widened. Ryan straightened, stepping forward with a practiced smile. "Ryan Holloway," he said, extending a hand. "I don't think we've met." Clara regarded the hand for a brief moment before taking it politely. "Clara Whitmore," she replied. "Nice to meet you." Ryan's smile tightened as realization clicked into place. "Whitmore Industries?" he asked. "Yes," Clara said simply. The effect was immediate. The room recalibrated, attention snapping into sharper focus. Vanessa's expression shifted, color draining from her cheeks as understanding settled in. Ryan recovered quickly. "Impressive," he said. "I wasn't aware Ethan worked for you." Clara released his hand. Ethan doesn't simply work for me, she said evenly. He leads teams that keep our company steady. Her gaze moved back to Ethan. I rely on his judgment. Silence followed, dense and revealing. Ethan felt the weight of eyes on him. Not pity now, but surprise edged with respect. He kept his posture relaxed, refusing to perform. Vanessa stepped closer, her voice lighter than it felt. Ethan's always been dependable, she said. I suppose I underestimated where that could lead. Clara turned to her, assessing without unkindness. Dependability, she said, is rarer than ambition. She paused, and far more valuable. Ryan laughed awkwardly. Well, success takes many forms, he said. We all make choices. Yes, Clara agreed. We do. Ethan felt a strange calm settle over him. He hadn't needed this moment, he realized. He hadn't come to be redeemed. Yet standing there, seeing the narrative shift without his intervention, he felt something like closure begin to form. Liam tugged at his sleeve. Dad? He whispered. Is she your boss? Ethan smiled down at him. She is, he said. She's nice, Liam decided. Clara heard and smiled. Thank you, she said. You're very polite. The music resumed tentatively. Conversations restarted, different now, angled toward Clara and Ethan with renewed curiosity. Vanessa lingered, searching Ethan's face for something she could recognize. He met her gaze briefly. No triumph, no resentment. Only the quiet certainty of a life chosen with intention. Clara leaned closer to Ethan. When you're ready, she said softly, I'd like to talk. Ethan nodded. I'd like that. As the night pressed on, the balance had shifted, not through spectacle, but through truth finally seen. Ethan stood beside his son, grounded and unafraid, knowing the story was not finished, and that what came next would be shaped not by humiliation, but by choice. The hum of conversation continued, but Ethan felt the tension in the room dissolve around him, replaced by something steadier, quieter. Clara Whitmore stayed near him and Liam, her presence protective without demanding attention. He watched his son's eyes light up as Clara knelt to speak to him again, asking about school projects and favorite stories, her tone patient, warm. Liam laughed, a sound that felt like a small triumph after the earlier awkwardness with Vanessa and Ryan. Vanessa lingered across the room, caught in a pause she hadn't anticipated. She watched Ethan with a careful gaze, as though trying to measure the change in him. Her smile no longer held the same ease. The carefully constructed confidence wavered. Ethan met her eyes briefly, nodding slightly in acknowledgement, but there was no spark of confrontation in his expression, only calm, deliberate composure. Ryan shifted uneasily beside her. Maybe we should go, he suggested. His voice carried a hint of impatience, but Vanessa did not move immediately. She seemed reluctant to let go of the narrative she had controlled for so long, reluctant to accept that it no longer defined the room. Ethan's focus remained on Liam. Do you want to get some dessert? He asked softly. Liam's eyes lit up, and he nodded enthusiastically. The two walked toward the refreshment table, Clara following at a respectful distance, observing but allowing them space. Ethan felt a rare lightness in his chest, an unfamiliar sense that the night could still hold kindness. Later, as the crowd began to thin, Vanessa approached Ethan once more. Her steps were slower, measured, as though she were weighing each word in advance. Ethan, she began, voice quieter than before, I didn't expect, she trailed off, searching for a footing she could no longer find. Ethan turned to her fully. Yes? He asked gently, giving her space to speak without prompting her into accusation. Vanessa's eyes shifted to Liam, who was chatting with Clara about a drawing he had made. I suppose I underestimated you, she admitted, the words awkward, raw, lacking the polish she normally relied on. I thought things would look different. Ethan listened, silent, weighing her words. There was no vindication in them, no apology for the past, only recognition. And that was enough. He shook his head lightly. Things look as they always did, he said. I've built what matters to me. That's enough. Vanessa's shoulders sagged, almost imperceptibly. She said nothing more, merely nodded, then turned and walked away. Ryan followed, his expression tight, lips pressed into a line of defeat he tried to hide. They left without fanfare, and the room seemed to exhale in relief. Ethan returned to Liam, kneeling beside him to admire a small sketch of their home, carefully colored and labeled. "This is excellent," Ethan said, genuine admiration in his voice. Liam beamed, pride shining through his eyes. "I wanted you to see it," he said. "I even drew the tree outside our window." Clara joined them quietly, her presence still calming, unintrusive. "You've raised him well, Ethan," she said. Her tone held respect, not flattery. "Not just in manners, but in heart. That counts for more than any success I've ever seen in a boardroom." Ethan smiled, warmth filling him. "Thanks, Clara," he said. "That means a lot." She glanced at the remnants of the reunion, noting the scattered papers, the chairs slowly being stacked, the faint laughter of those lingering to say goodbye. "People can underestimate what they don't understand," she observed. "But you've carried yourself with integrity. That doesn't go unnoticed." Ethan's gaze shifted to Liam, who was now attempting to explain his drawing in meticulous detail to Clara. "I just wanted to grow up knowing he's valued," Ethan said softly, "that he doesn't need anyone else's approval to matter." Clara's eyes softened. "He knows it," she replied, "and he'll never forget it, because you've shown him in action." For the first time all night, Ethan allowed himself to relax fully. He realized that the humiliation he had carried from Vanessa's words, from Ryan's condescension, had been powerless against what truly mattered. Liam's sense of security, his own calm, and the respect of someone who truly understood his worth. As the last guest departed, Clara turned to Ethan. "There's a quiet restaurant nearby," she said. "I'd like to continue our conversation, if you're open to it." Ethan hesitated briefly, then nodded. "I'd like that," he said. They left the hall together, Liam sandwiched safely between them, laughter bubbling as he recounted stories from the evening. Outside, the cool night air felt like a fresh beginning. Ethan realized the night hadn't just been about enduring judgment. It had been about witnessing respect, seeing truth recognized, and reclaiming dignity without confrontation. The reunion had ended, but for Ethan, the story was far from over. It had simply shifted towards something he could shape, something real and lasting. He walked forward with Liam beside him, Clara close, feeling a sense of possibility that had nothing to do with wealth or status and everything to do with integrity, love, and choice. And as they disappeared into the night, the echoes of the past, Vanessa's judgment, Ryan's condescension, faded, leaving behind only the quiet certainty that Ethan's life, his decisions, and his family were stronger than anyone's assumptions.